Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us with Find Your Lady Tribe today. We are excitedly wrapping up an awesome series that we've just had for the past 4 weeks on how to help a friend when. All about how to help our friends through things that are kind of rough spots in their life, transitions and unwanted things that happen to us or are created for us. Today we're going to bring it all back with how to help a friend with a diagnosis of cancer. And we're really excited to have a good friend with us today, Sheila Rusco, who has some experience with this and some great tips and recommendations for us. So stay tuned.
Welcome to Find Your Lady Tribe. My name is Brenda.
And I am Michelle.
And it's our mission to build a community of lady tribes, a place to connect and grow your tribe with resources, ideas, workshops, retreats, and events. We invite you to join our inner circle and become a tribe leader. It's free!
Each week, we will start a conversation about connecting within your tribe and across all of our tribes. Our goal is to create 1,000 new lady tribes in 2022. And each episode will challenge you with a call to action. The first one is to join our inner circle. Go to tinyurl.com/myladytribe. And as a gratitude gift, we will send you a downloadable copy of Chapter 1 of Lady and the Tribe, The Awakening.
Yay! So please subscribe to be notified of a new episode each week.
Welcome back. Well, I want to start by sharing my story about Sheila and her experience with cancer. How many years ago was this, first of all?
It was 9 years ago yesterday.
Wow.
I know.
9 years ago,
Congratulations.
girl. Wow.
Thank you.
Amazing. So 9 years ago, Sheila and I would say were, I would say we're kindred clan, friends of friends in same circles.
Friends by sister.
Friends by my sister. And so we would see each other at the same events and things like that. But we didn't really know each other. We hadn't had coffee, we hadn't had lunch, and either of us hadn't made the effort to do so either, right? But I learned, I'm not sure if it was probably from Bobby, my sister, that you had just gotten a diagnosis of cancer. And that day I had seen her out running around. She's a big time runner, running like crazy all over the place in the heat of all summer and everything. And I knew also that she was kind of taking care of her family at home, but kind of solo parenting. Her husband's very much in the picture, but he was working off, kind of far away. And she was just amazed me, absolutely floored, amazed me about how strong she was. And I was just so inspired. And I'm sorry to get weak on y'all, but I was inspired by her strength and her obvious attitude and the way she just went straight forward with her life and took cancer head on. So sorry to make us all weepy right before you get to talk, but I want you to please share with all of us, because I don't know if I've ever even asked you from the beginning what that felt like to you and where you started.
So I was pretty clueless. I had a little bit of a lump on my neck. Didn't hurt. Nothing was wrong, or didn't hurt. So my family was like, "You got to get that checked out." I'm like, "No, it's fine." It was, a knot. It didn't look very pretty. So I go in and get it checked. I go to my regular doctor, and he said, "I'm going to hook you up with the ear, nose, and throat doctor." So I went there. She does x-rays on it. This was on a Friday. Saturday morning at 7 a.m. she calls me. She goes, "I don't call patients on the Saturday, but I've made an appointment for you on Monday morning with an oncologist." Well, I didn't even know what an oncologist was, which is embarrassing to say, but I really didn't. I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's fine. Monday works. That's good." And so my husband at the time was working in North Dakota, and I call him and I said, "So they don't really know what the lump is, but I have this appointment on Monday with an oncologist." He goes, "Oh, Sheila, that's not good." I'm like, "Why?" he's like, do you know what that is? And I'm like, no. He's like, it's a cancer doctor. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. And so anyway, Monday morning comes and I go in and I'm with my parents and my friend from like 5th grade. And their diagnosis, I'm not really hearing anything because I'm like, no, because I'm healthy. I've always taken care of myself, and there's no way this could be me. This is just dumb. So I'm really kind of half listening. And fast forward to 2 weeks after that, they're doing the surgery. They're taking this lump out. It just was so fast moving, and I thought, what is going on? And then I started chemo, and then it was crazy. It just was so fast. So I don't think I had time to process it. Mm-hmm. And I am the type of person that even when I have the flu, I isolate myself when I'm sick. So I'm just like, okay, this is fine. I'm just going to pretend like nothing's happening. I'm going to defy it, and I'm just going to move forward. So that was kind of how it happened. It was Hodgkin's, and I just never really thought about it, actually. And I think that helped me.
Right.
To some extent.
Yeah. So how did you communicate that, or was it just something that you didn't tell people about it?
So I communicated through email. I had this big email list, and I think I did through Facebook too, just because I knew I was going to lose my hair. And my doctor was like, there is a 99.9% chance you'll lose it, so just get used to that idea. And I'm like, no, but there's still that 0.1%. So, but I ended up losing it. So I wanted to share this with everybody, so there wasn't that when you walk in the grocery store and they're like, oh no, she has cancer. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want that to happen. So I just wanted everybody to be forewarned and to make sure that they didn't feel awkward, because it is a weird, awkward situation. So it was just, I just communicated through that. And I mean, of course, my parents knew, and my close friends and family I told. And but I think Doug actually ended up telling the kids. And so, it was just.
So what was the general response? Did anything stand out as far as coming back at you from this news?
And I think that I defied it so much that I didn't embrace that part of it. The part that I was focused on the most were my kids. They were young. Jacob was 13 and Kylie was around 7. So they were very young. And so I was really trying to protect their thoughts and their feelings. And I think just Jacob coming back to me going, how could that be? Like, that doesn't even make sense. And he goes, but I think I've heard of that disease, and I think it's curable, so it'll be okay. Like, he was just he's a very big thinker, right? So that was probably my biggest concern.
He decided you were going to be fine.
Yeah, so. It's fine.
And it was, and so it will be.
Yes.
I love it. So what kind of questions do you have, Michelle?
Oh, so many. I am connecting to what you're saying and remembering that moment in my own life, and also recently with a very close friend of mine in my tribe, and thinking about how there were things that I wish people would have said or would not have said. And there were, even recently in the reverse role of supporting a girlfriend, I still didn't know what to do. And I didn't know on a daily basis if I was doing the right thing. So looking back and knowing that and in my case as well, it wasn't a big deal to me. Because of all the reasons, because I'm healthy, because I'm strong, because I'm just not going to be set off pace by this, like you. But that it was a big deal to all the people around me and the people who love me. And I would say that my friend recently was kind of a little bit like me in that way, is that it's no big deal. But I heard her saying, I'm no big deal.
Right. That's exactly right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what could you say to support a friend who's going through cancer now? What allows them to be a big deal to the people around them who love them and only want to support them? What would you have done different?
I would have been more open and allowing, because I really wasn't, because I was more, I got this, it's good. And, and I so appreciate what you said, but a lot of people were saying that, like our friends were like, oh, you're strong, you're totally get through this, it's fine. But what I learned is when I would say fine to friends, when I'd be like, I'm fine, that word is so important to hang on to as a friend, because you're like, oh, they're so not fine, they need something. Because I knew that when I would say that, I'm like, I so need something, but I don't know what it is. I think as friends, we kind of have to cipher through what they need, right? Because we all have different personalities. You have the strong ones. You have some that will actually ask you for help, which is, I love those friends, because that's great, because you know exactly what to do. But I think so one of my friends, and maybe this, hopefully this will answer your question. One of my friends, the first thing she did when she found out was she made a list. And this list was just things, like things that the kids had to do at school, sports practice, whatever it was, grocery shopping, cleaning the house, just movie night she would have on there, even wine night she would have on there. And she sent that out, and then people signed up for whatever they wanted to do, right? Oh. I had no control. She didn't ask me. She just did it. And so I'd have random people driving over, like, movie night. I'm like, what is movie night? And sometimes I was like, I don't really want this right now. But I know, looking back, it was helpful, because it's like, oh, I do matter. Like, I matter. They're sitting here with me. And a lot of times, especially the strong women, are like, I don't need anybody. Like, I totally got this. Like, I can get through this. But having someone sit there with you, or call you, or text you, or just acknowledge that they know you're still going through it is great. Because your life kind of stops when you're going through cancer, right? Everything else is still going around, but you're kind of hooked up with doctor's appointments and all that. So, I think and I think everything matters, right? So we can't devalue texting even. And you guys have heard me talk about Damien a lot, but we connected because he lived in California, and we connected through texting. The greatest thing about that, because I'm usually like, oh no, we need to be in person and we need to talk, face to face and on the phone. And, but that texting was amazing, because we could do it all throughout the day at any time, no matter what we were doing, if we were working, if we were traveling or whatever. And it made a huge difference. We talked about life, and we talked about our kids, and we talked about, some what he was going through, but that's, not the most important thing he wanted to talk about. And that gave him that reassurance. It's like, I'll just text if I need something. I mean, it's like sometimes 3 a.m, right? So just that kind of support, knowing someone's there, makes you feel so much better, right? Just makes you feel so much more, I guess, supported and secured in everything that you're going to go through.
And opening those lines of communication and keeping them open, I think I remember when you were going through that, walking beside Damien, it affected me. And I had never met him because it affected you so much, and it was so important. I think that's the kind of support that friends need when they're going through cancer. Right. It's the kind that you were able to give, opening and staying with them. I remember in the beginning, there was like I had a burden of sharing some news, which you did very well with email. And that the people who were the most important to me in their minds maybe felt slighted because I didn't share the news directly with them. It was almost like they loved me the most, and I was so important to them that they kind of wanted to be at the top of the chain of who's important to me in my life, especially if I was, especially if I had something that was terminal. They needed to assert their place. And I would say, in supporting a friend who's going through this actively, is to not create that. Right. If there's any way that you can be the bestest friend, the oldest friend, the longest term one, but not in any way that creates expectations. Right. Unlike my mother, who was fine just saying, I'm coming and I'm staying.
Like a mother would do, right?
Right. And I'm like, no, the last thing that I can do right now is take care of you.
Right. Yeah, and the last thing anyone needs in that situation is to worry about how that's affecting someone else. It's not about us, the friend.
Right.
It's not about us. It's all about supporting someone through something difficult.
Yes.
So those are some great tips. And
Practical.
Anything else practical? I mean, I love the texting too, because I feel like you can text at 2 a.m. and it might not feel so like you're asking too much when you're just having a simple back and forth conversation. It's kind of a little light and easiness about it.
Yeah, there's humor in there and there's all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I agree.
Well, something that was really supportive to me was my friends who, and you were one of them, my friends who could support my, my denial or my grief.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right?
Yes.
There were things about it that were just 100% denial or grief. And in healthcare, we get this diagnosis and then we hold on to that. And we make up all kinds of things in our minds of what that could mean. But some of us don't.
Right.
And so it's really hard. Like, I'm not necessarily sad. I just have an appointment next week.
Yeah, I got to get through this. I got to go.
I just have somewhere to be.
Right.
And so one way that you supported me, Brenda, was by really letting me have my denial and my grief. Because I didn't, that's what I needed to have. As far as I was concerned, I was going to be fine. I just needed to go through these moments emotionally.
Right.
And so it was, I could still cook my own food. Thank goodness my kids were older.
Right.
But that wasn't the kind of practical support that I needed so much as somebody who could support me through my emotions and who really could give me words of wisdom, who could give me comforting thoughts and peace, or that person who's willing to just be and come over for movie night and we just sit there and watch, Netflix the whole time. I remember Nikki, one of our friends in common, just brought me this coziest thing I've ever worn, made from special material so it wouldn't, irritate.
That's the best, by the way, the best gift.
Best thing, the comfy stuff,
yeah.
and just huge as day when I wouldn't normally use the F-bomb, but let alone wear it. But that is all I wore, this big F cancer sweatshirt, and it became my most favorite thing. And I've even passed it on to.
And it's okay to say that to friends, by the way. They don't you don't have to be like, you're a fighter, you're gonna get through this. You can say, you know what, cancer sucks.
They're like, just F
and it's
this.
Okay, yeah. One of the things too, I think that I didn't think about until later was I had a friend reach out to me right when I got diagnosed, and I'd gone to high school with him, and so I don't know him well, but he reached out to me and he said, the best advice I can give you is take care of your loved ones, because what you go through is pretty easy, because it's going to be pretty regimented. You're going to do your doctor's visits. You're going to take your chemo cocktails, whatever. You're going to do your thing. But they're going to be watching this, which is scary because they don't know. They haven't been through it. They just don't know what you're feeling, what you're thinking. And so he was like, just protect them. And I thought, what strange advice. This was right before I had gone through anything. And now I understand that 9 years later. I'm like, oh, I totally get that. Because looking in the eyes of your loved ones and your friends going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I think if I would have thought about that more, I would have alleviated a lot of pain for friends and loved ones. I mean,
yes.
It was, so that's a really important thing. And I mean, even, even like, your husband, if your husband took my husband out for a beer or something, just to get them away from what they're seeing all the time, it's just kind of getting them out, the kids, taking the kids out if they're younger, and don't even ask because they'll say no, but just do it, right? Just,
I'm coming over
to grab your kids and we're going to a movie or whatever. So, yeah.
So for both of you, as friends, we all want to do something, be something, or give something. Right? What are those things that to make us feel better, right? About being of support. What can we, what are the things that really meant the most to you? Yes.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Take me somewhere. Take me out of this situation. Just come pick me up.
I would agree 100%.
Just come pick me up and take me out of here. And I remember thinking, I look terrible. I feel barely alive at this
But I wanna go
moment,
out.
but I don't want to spend one more day
Right.
here. And a girlfriend that I love dearly just showed up in her convertible on a beautiful day in
Aw.
June, and scooped me up. She brought me flowers. She gave me a tiara. She had a beautiful survivor sash. And she just drove me around. We went to Estes Park and had lunch, and we were just outdoors. And we were in the car in the outdoors enjoying everything. So that'd be my biggest thing, is just come pick you up.
Right.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, and again, my biggest thing, kind of to that point, I mean, just don't ask. You just got to do, because we're just involved in trying to, fight through it or get through it, and it's just we want to be taken out. I think a lot of times friends think, and I've had friends go through cancer, so you're like, oh, I think they're just tired. Like, they're probably really tired. They probably don't want to go out. Like, that's probably too much. And you overthink it, and it's like, just go pick them up. And the worst case scenario, they're like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. But more times than not, it's like, yeah, get me out of here.
Yeah,
I
bring
just wanna go somewhere.
flowers and a
Right.
picnic, and,
Yes.
and I'll
Yes.
go anytime.
And maybe
Yeah.
specific help, like I want to come mow your lawn. I mean, would that have been okay versus like,
Yeah.
what can I do for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
kids were
Because we're not good at
older.
answering that. What can I do for you? We're not good. We're like, I'm fine.
But that list,
Fine.
that kind of list, and then farming those things
Yeah.
out. I would say that a lot of times now we're very far away from our people who want to help and can't jump on that plane and show up there tomorrow. Talking to me about my charity, not assuming that it's a cancer charity, but talk to me about my charity. How can I donate to your church? I would love to get on a plane and come help you right now. I don't need that, but would you do this in honor? Would you do this in honor of my charity? Or I really have a heart for lost animals or animals who need surgeries. Could you please donate to this particular thing? If you really want to help,
I like that.
that would make me feel better.
Right.
Right.
Well, what about things that were said or done that kind of struck you off a little bit? Anything that we shouldn't do or we should steer away from or really question before we do our helping?
You want me to go first?
Yes, please. I'm wondering if they're the same.
So yeah, a couple things. One, I think, is, again, don't ask, right? And don't ask unless you really mean it. Like, a lot of people ask Doug, what can I do? What can I do? And he's like, go take the kids somewhere. They were young. It was like, go take the kids somewhere. Like, she's got sports and all this stuff. Like, go take them. And they'd be like, okay, and then never show up, right? So just, what is it? Do what you say and say what you mean. Mm-hmm. Very important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, too, be very authentic with what you can do. So, for example, I'm not a great nurturer. Like, I'm not somebody that can go sit in a hospital. I can do it, and I will do it, and I have done it. But to go sit in a hospital and nurture someone is really not it's not my strength. And so it's a little awkward, and I feel like the energies are just a little off. There's so many other things I could do. I'll totally take you for a ride in the Jeep or whatever, but there are friends, like, within a tribe or people that that will do that are very nurturing, and it's like, oh my gosh, Jennifer, go do that.
Was that the wrong thing?
What's that?
Did somebody nurture you the wrong way?
No, I think it's just no, actually, I didn't allow anybody to nurture. That was probably my biggest downfall, right? I didn't allow that. My friend, like Sherry from 5th grade, she insisted on everything because she knows me so well, so she did. But, like, I would start falling asleep, and she'd be like, it's okay to sleep. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I think you just have to be very authentic. And if all you can do is text, that is so meaningful. Like, if that's where your heart is and that's where you can be a real connection to that person, that's going to be huge. Huge.
I would say my to not do for me was food. Because everybody gets feeling sad and they're in their feelings and they're living it out, and then they start baking or they start cooking or casseroling, and those aren't necessarily things that I can find useful.
Right.
And I may not be as grateful, and it's going to be terrible if it's a neighbor or somebody who lives close by and sees me, dumping it 3 days later, and that actually
That's a really good one.
happened. I was like, nobody in this house actually eats these things. So
they're like, oh, you didn't eat it.
Oh, you didn't like it. I'm like, no, that's not the thing. So, just maybe don't do food things, because that could be, unless you ask in advance.
Right.
But these days with DoorDash and, Uber Eats, maybe a gift certificate or something
groceries
like
delivered.
Yeah, or groceries delivered instead, that somebody can check the boxes themselves and have it brought over would be even better than eating all your sad friends' feelings.
Yeah, right. The comfort food. So, but maybe there are people who are foodies who would really appreciate that. It probably all depends a little bit, but also just being maybe a single mom that has to take care of their kids, feeding the kids, but maybe being specific and saying, would you like vegetables, or would you like fruit, or would you like comfort food?
Or would you like Uber?
Not just, or not just presenting a casserole that you don't know what is in it.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
I
Another thing probably is a don't do is tell me your stories.
Yes.
About people that you love or have been through this. And I tried to use this I tried to remember this and do it right with my friend recently, by just like, the last thing on the planet that she wanted to hear was my cancer journey. She just got some news. She doesn't want my advice. She knows it's a happy ending. I'm here, and I'm 5 years surviving. And so she knows that it ended well, but she doesn't need to hear my daily story, and she doesn't need to have my advice. It so happened that her mother had, because of genetics, her mother had experienced breast cancer earlier also. And so, of course, her mom was right there to
tell her all the
give all the good mom advice and good experience, and it really would have interrupted her healing to have somebody else in support of her that was giving her advice or decisions, with any sort of judgments.
Well, and every cancer is different, and every person's different, and even if two people have the same cancer, they handle it completely differently. Mm-hmm. So it's and then that's great advice. And to take it even further, I mean, we want to hear like your stories. Like if you have a promotion at work, we want to hear about it. And I think a lot of times friends are afraid to say, oh, it's so good in my life right now. That's okay though, because we want to hear that, because we're stuck with doctors and people poking and, so we want to hear that. Like we love that. So it gives us it just gives something good in our day, right? It's like, oh, that's so awesome. Like they're doing really well.
Don't leave me out.
So don't leave me out because you're afraid to hurt my feelings.
I wanted to ask about that. Did either of you have any friendships or relationships that you felt like maybe they started avoiding you a little because they didn't know what to say?
Oh, for sure.
They didn't know what
to say.
Even family members too.
Family members, and I would say those never recovered.
Yes.
And so the people who heard in the grapevine that I was struggling, that just because they didn't know what to say or do, or that were just, and I would say that use that in the opposite way if you can, is that if you don't know what to say or do, that's even more reason to reach out. Or if there's a rift.
Right.
That has been developed between you and a person who's now going through something, it's a perfect time to reconcile, a perfect time to reach out.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to say, I know it's okay to say, oh my gosh, this sucks. I have no idea what to say. I have no idea what to do. Like, how are you feeling? It's okay to say that. Instead of just ignoring, right? Because then it's like,
avoiding,
I totally get you. Yeah, because it is awkward. I mean, it's very awkward. So,
well, Sheila, you look vibrant and healthy and happy, and I know, and your hair is awesome.
I know, sure, her hair is her signature.
I went bald,
so that was a blow. That was probably a big blow.
We said we went from Farrah Fawcett to G.I. Jane. It was like,
So how are you? How are you now? What are you doing now?
9 years later.
On the other side of that 9-year journey.
I'm good. It's like I said, everybody's probably been affected by cancer in some way, shape, or form. And I've had, through those 9 years, I've had friends that I've been with to go through cancer. And I think going through it myself definitely helps because you kind of know those questions to ask or not ask and what to talk about and all of that. But now I am focused on living the kind life, which is really just getting everybody back to kind of their core, which is love. And one thing I'll say about any disease is, we're always about fighting for it, fighting through it. But if we just love it, and loving it meaning embrace the friendships, embrace the experience too, because you meet a lot of people along the journey. Even if it seems like kind of a crappy journey, you're still meeting people and you're learning and you're experiencing. And I think just embracing that and loving your way through it. One of the best things, and I'll try not to cry, the best things that was said to me when I had cancer was, I'm just going to love you through it. Like bald, irritable, weak, whatever. I'm just going to love you through it. And that was so big to me. It was bigger than, you got this, you're going to fight it, you've got this. And I will never forget that. And I think that's what living the kind life is about, to answer your question.
Good.
It's just to get back to that core thing is like, love, we just have to love each other as best we can. I mean, there's always awkwardness and some hiccups, but it's still pretty solid, right?
Yes, that's such important work. And I know you have more things in the works, like the course and all kinds of good stuff that's just about ready to blossom. How do our viewers and listeners find you?
So you can go to livingthekindlife.com, and you can also like our Facebook page, Living the Kind Life. We have a YouTube, but it's not quite savvy yet, so hold on there. But you can go to livingthekindlife.com, and there's all the updates there for that, and the course too.
Oh, wonderful.
So much good stuff.
Yes. Well, I'm so glad that we could have this conversation together in the room. There's 3 of us, and when 3 or more gather, we are a tribe.
Thank you so much for joining us today for Find Your Lady Tribe. Would you do us a favor and hit that like button and add a comment? It'll really help us grow.
Better yet, find the share arrow and share out to your tribe. Join us again next week on YouTube or your favorite podcast service.